welcome back to the Wallfacer Labs podcast. Today's guest is DeFi Nicola, who is a research and product lead at DeFi Saver. DeFi Saver is an all-in-one DeFi management tool for your assets and positions. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, and thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure. So for those who may not be familiar with DeFi Saver, can you give kind of a high-level overview of what the product is and how people use it?
Yeah, of course. We actually started way back in 2019 as a CDP saver because the only protocol we integrated back then was Maker that has so-called collateralized debt positions. And then when Compound and Aave popped up, we sort of rebranded to DeFi Saver. So what DeFi Saver basically is, a one-liner would be that we are a dashboard that aggregates DeFi lending protocols and offer advanced tools to manage your DeFi loans. And on top of that, automation features. So let's say you want to get protected and from liquidation.
Understood. And what initially drew you to DeFi Saver? Because you've been there since 2020?
I've been there for 3 years, almost 3 years now. My role here is research. So basically trying to, get in the docs of different lending protocols. Here we are talking mainly about over-collateralized lending protocols, like the blue chip ones. And we try to avoid unsustainable models. So trying to be a safety layer for our users. So yeah, the research primarily, or also a bit of product role. It's basically a wide spectrum of activities, as we can call ourselves a startup. So yeah, actually also leading an R&D team as well here. So yeah, a lot of stuff, but in one word, let's say research.
Got it. And this is kind of your first role within crypto, right? So what drew you to DeFi Saver specifically? And I guess more broadly, how did you get interested in crypto?
Well, yeah, I actually started in 2020 by just stumbling upon different white papers of Maker and Liquidity protocol, to be more specific. And then they had an option to decentralize the front-end operators, and I decided to jump on that train. And I said, okay, let's build a front end for this cool new DeFi lending protocol. And that's how I actually met the guys from DeFi Saver. And after some times, they reached out back to me and said, why don't you come and work with us? We are already doing the aggregation of DeFi lending protocols, and we are kind of a front end for multiple lending protocols. And I say, why not? The role was good, and yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mentioned this to you before we started recording, but to me, DeFi Saver kind of feels like a underappreciated, very large and popular tool within the industry used by a lot of the pro players. You mentioned, though, that a part of your role is around research, product, kind of looking into new protocols, how you integrate them. I'm guessing different mechanism research and such. So how does DeFi Saver think through that, right? You could integrate everything that's on the, top 100 list of DeFi protocols. What's the process you go through today of trying to have comprehensive offerings that the users are satisfied with for some balance of maybe security and keeping some of those high standards?
Yeah, that's a very good question. To be perfectly honest, it's a tough job. We are a team now of between 20 25 people. And yeah, there's so many protocols out there. And what we tend to do, there is, first of all, no procedure per se of adding new protocols. But what we tend to do is, first of all, listen to the user's feedback. Second of all, try to examine the sustainability of the mechanisms those protocols are offering, and of course innovation. One good example is probably, let's say, Curve USD with their soft liquidations recently. So yeah, that was the example where we tried to be there from day one. So we went through the protocol docs, we tried to use it ourselves. And we decided, I think this is going to be a new feature that users will appreciate. Let's, add it to our platform and offer, additional value we offer to other protocols we basically integrated. So I would say that there are a few factors, like as I said, the community feedback, the protocols, like how can I say, longevity or sustainability, and of course the traction. I mean the usage. The challenge, the real challenge there is to catch like future blue chip DeFi lending protocols as early as possible, basically.
Yeah, you bring up a good, actually two good points there I want to dive into. On the example of CRV USD, I agree. I think that's probably one of the more interesting products to hit the market recently. Do you find, though, from your user set that new products like that are kind of bringing in a new set of users? Do you see that it's just expanding your existing set? Do you find that they're still like mostly just gravitating towards the Maker CDP management? Like, how do you find that those new products being early to that stuff grows DeFi Saver?
We basically try to avoid any user tracking. But what I could say regarding that is that, I mean, in my insight is that we had some completely new users for specifically Curve USD, because I think when you release that kind of innovation, it definitely attracts new users to space. That's actually how I got into space when Liquidity proposed like the liquidation ratio of 110%, which was like significantly lower than what Maker had at that time, and it was like completely immutable protocol, etc. So that's a good example how you can basically, find something new and then find the whole industry that like sort of wraps around that innovation. So I would not say that only new users are now using the Curve USD on our platform, because if you go to DeFi Saver, there's like a bunch of protocols. Maybe some try to, just try new things out. Maybe there were existing users of another protocols. And of course, I think there is a significant percentage of users who like, okay, this is a new protocol. I've heard about it first time. I've never used another DeFi lending protocol before, and I think this is a good thing, and why not to try it? I mean, that is a good use case for our like simulation tool we have on our app, where you can basically on one click create a local fork of the network you're using, let's say mainnet, and try things out. You just get some balance of ETH and basically any token you want, and then go and test things out prior to actually executing it live on some network.
Yeah, I see how that kind of fits into what you guys are doing. And you also mentioned this idea of catching some of these new lending blue chips early. What are some other examples of things you guys have added recently? Maybe a Morpho support, or have you looked at kind of Ajna, some of these, peer-to-peer type of lending protocols? What else is catching your attention there?
Well, I mean, we are definitely following the lending space closely, as we want to be like the ones integrating those new primitives first. As you mentioned, Morpho went with the approach of being like the core protocol being immutable. So they went with the more modular approach, comparing to other protocols. Ajna protocol went with the approach of being like completely oracleless. Yeah, there is a lot of new initiatives, and we try to be, in the game. Apart from that, what new things we are working on and we launched recently that has basically been a result of the feedback we got from users is that we switched from DS proxies to Safe as a default smart wallet on our application. DS proxy, just for a bit of context, is again old proxy smart contract that was used in built in Maker protocol that we later on decided to use for our future integrations, not just for Maker. A proxy contract is basically used to bundle multiple actions into one transaction and then offer like more convenient one-click features. And it just clicked for us to switch to Safe, mainly because it was, first of all, newer tech. It was a way gas efficient, and it was basically an industry standard. So you can Now, if you have a multi-sig or a single sig, you can just connect to DeFi Saver, as we have like a native support for safes, like from 2 months ago, let's say.
Yeah, it's great. And I saw that also qualifies your users for this kind of points program that Safe.
Yeah, it was, to be honest, it was not planned. It was just happened to be a perfect timing. Safe made their token transferable recently, and then launched their points program, to which our users that are using Safe as their smart wallets will be eligible, I think, from day. I mean, with no additional action required. So yeah, that's a good point. Just wanted to add that our support for DS proxies is still there. You can basically choose what you wish to use. The main point being here is what I mentioned previously about the liquidity, trying the decentralized frontends. We believe that users should not be locked to any platform, and that's another reason why we decided to switch to Safe, because basically the feedback from users was, okay, you are using DS proxies. What should I do if for any reason DeFi Saver experience a downtime? That is not the case now with the Safe, because you can anytime go to the Safe official UI and just connect your Safe there, find the DeFi Saver app, or basically any app on the Safe UI, any official lending protocol app there, and you can manage your position as well. So we believe that the walled garden approach should be avoided by all means. And yeah, that was one of the reasons why we wanted to switch to some infrastructure that is like existing and that you can use on multiple frontends.
Makes absolute sense to kind of standardize around that. Coming back to one other thing that you had said on the topic of user tracking. So you mentioned that you guys try to avoid doing any kind of user tracking. I believe a while ago, I also heard an interview with someone from Uniswap that was kind of lamenting on the fact that they also don't do traditional user tracking. And so compared to Web2 companies, they have a much tougher time sort of building user personas and, digging into, the characteristics of their users. I think a lot of crypto companies, kind of from an ideological perspective, maybe don't do user tracking. How do you find that impacts your ability to build around users and products? And talk me through that.
Good question. Yeah. So we decided to just stick to having like a community gathering place, let's say a Discord server, or just being responsive on our social media, where people can reach to us and, provide any feedback on the features or suggest new features, new options they would like to have, new protocols, new networks. And we tend to, take that, seriously, because they, decided to reach out. So yeah, I think that we actually don't need to do the traditional Web2 user tracking and build the average DeFi Saver user profile and build around it. Because as you said, we really try to follow the ideology of the whole web3 space. And basically, I think we are not missing too much by not tracking the users, as we are trying to be completely open for any kind of feedback we can get from users. And of course, there is also trying to get the sense of the community on crypto Twitter, see what they do or do not like or prefer. So we also consider that when deciding about releasing or not releasing some features, and how do we approach implementing some of those.
Yeah, makes sense. So jumping around a bit, I'd like to talk a bit about the actual business of DeFi Saver, now that I think we've got a better understanding of the product. So I think a broad challenge of DeFi tools or protocols, even in some sense, is identifying what users are willing to pay for. I think for as much money as there is floating around in crypto, people are pretty notorious for not liking paying fees. I think you guys have done a great job of really charging fees at all of the right places throughout the product. Can you talk me through maybe how you guys initially approached fees at first, and then how you've kind of expanded those over time to understand what users are actually willing to pay for?
Yeah, of course. So we applied fees from the get-go, from day one. and we haven't actually made many changes like during these 5 years now. So yeah, we basically charge a fee if you're doing like an advanced transaction on DeFi Saver. And what is an advanced transaction is basically a transaction consisting of multiple actions. So let's say you want to deleverage your position in one click. That would essentially mean you need to withdraw part of your collateral, sell it to the debt asset, and repay part of your debt. That's basically three actions that include a swap. So yeah, those kind of transactions are the ones we apply a fee, and it's 25 basis points if you are swapping between non-correlated assets, let's say Ether to stablecoin. What we did, the changes we did, in the last year or so, was to lower a fee on a certain pair of assets. And again, that was like purely user feedback. So we set our fee model and then went with it until we saw a significant portion of users saying, okay, I think that you should lower the fee for the correlated assets. So let's say if you are swapping ETH to staked ETH or some other Ethereum derivative, or basically any liquid staking liquid staking token, it's basically 10 basis points. And it goes even lower if you're swapping stable coins. So let's say DAI to USDC. It's 1 basis point. And it's again a result of users' feedback. For example, that case for swapping stable coins is mostly done with a high leverage. And since we charge a fee on the swap amount, it can, if it's a 1 basis fee, it can basically get to 10 basis fee if user is doing it like a 10x leverage. So yeah, in short, it was a very simple model from the start, and we tried to not change it, a lot, since users were used to it and were completely okay with it. We tried to, get the sense from the people, let's say from Discord or on Twitter, and the majority of feedback we were getting was that they are completely okay with the service they are getting for the price they were paying in return. Another good example is the product we launched besides DeFi Saver. It's called ETH Saver, and it's targeting the ETH leverage staking. So basically, you want to amplify your staking returns by opening staked ETH position in some of the lending protocols, let's say Aave. There we decided to go with the performance fee, so not a one-time fee on the swap, but rather, since it's basically a yield strategy, we went with the approach of having fees, continuous fees, and we called it a performance fee, and it's a 10% from the profit the users are getting. So not from the position, but rather from the profit they are getting from throughout the period they are keeping the position alive.
And how's the uptake on ETH Saver been so far? And also, why did you guys do that as two kind of separate brands? Why not within the DeFi Saver brand?
Well, it made sense for us to put it on a dedicated website, as at that time the leverage staking was like the most popular yield option if you for ETH if you wanted to keep the ETH exposure. So we went for it because DeFi Saver app as of now have more than 10 lending protocols. Add to that DEX aggregators, multiple networks. It's becoming hard to maintain if we decided to put the ETH Saver there. It would probably be a messy. So we tried to put it on the separate website, and it went pretty good at the launch. I think the market now is seeing much higher yields you can get primarily on stable coins, since it's the bull run and the leverage demand is high, so the borrowing rates are spiking. So the leverage taking strategy has fallen down probably on the priority list of yield farming users. But yeah, we are somewhat okay with the usage so far of ETH Saver.
Something else, and I guess I could kind of take this a couple different directions based on what you said, but on the topic of some of the different features that DeFi Saver offers, you also have the kind of recipes that I think is a really novel kind of thing. Can you talk us through how those work exactly, and then if you've seen users build any kind of novel use cases that you weren't expecting with some of those recipes?
The feature is called Recipe Creator, and we like to call it because those transactions you can build, we call them like recipes, because it's actually a transaction builder. It's a UI, like a drag and drop of building custom transactions with no like coding experience or knowledge. So you can basically bundle multiple actions from different protocols. And we support like protocols, not just lending protocols, but yield protocols, let's say Yearn or Convex Finance, or if you want, or some DEXs, let's say Uniswap. So you can basically, let's say, open a CDP maker, borrow some DAI, deposit that DAI in Uniswap, take the LP tokens, let's say deposit them as collateral somewhere else, borrow some other token, deposit it in Yearn to earn yield, or anything basically you can imagine. It's a tool we thought of that, we still think it's probably the most powerful tool on our app, which we tried and which we are looking to promote a bit, and not just for end users, maybe for even developers, by providing some SDK or something. In terms of use cases, we've seen some users asking about arbitrage opportunities, like the cross-chain arbitrage. To be honest, I'm not that into it. So the other things that users have been doing with the Recipe Creator, the transaction builder, is that they want to fine tune some parameters they want to set for specific transactions. Let's say, on the whole DeFi Saver app is basically predefined transactions that can be made in the Recipe Creator itself. So let's say you want to set a different slippage tolerance, or you want to send tokens to another address at the end of the transaction, or to your smart wallet or externally owned account, something like that. That is maybe not configurable on the dashboard of a specific protocol, but you can definitely do it in the Recipe Creator. So yeah, the one liner would probably be a transaction builder for people that are not developers per se, and that are trying to do some interesting things on chain.
And you mentioned in there some of the cross-chain arbitrage people are going after, or trying to go after. I think you guys have also recently expanded to Arbitrum Optimism, maybe one other chain that I'm forgetting. How have you seen kind of the L2 adoption versus L1? Are you seeing people doing new things? What's that look like today?
Yeah, I'll say that we expanded to Arbitrum Optimism and Base now, the Base network. The adoption, I think, has been following the general adoption of the L2 networks of Ethereum. For example, if you look like the TVL of Arbitrum from, let's say, June last year, it has like 3x. We are definitely seeing increased number of users on L2 networks, and the increase in size of those positions on L2s. So I think the L2 adoption is here, and that it will continue to increase. Arbitrum is definitely leading the way, at least when it comes to DeFi Saver. So I think it also went with adding new protocols to those networks. So for a long time, we had just Aave v3 on Arbitrum and Optimism. Aave was like the first one of those blue chip lending protocols that went like multi-chain. Over time, we added like Compound v3, and on Arbitrum specifically, we now also have the Llama Lend protocol, which has the mentioned soft liquidations. So yeah, I think that as the number of lending protocols increased on those networks, supported by DeFi Saver, I think the adoption also followed that increase in usage.
Yeah, a very kind of off DeFi Saver type of question, but that I think about with some of these L2 networks is, yes, in the case of Arbitrum, you have homegrown applications like GMX, where, it's, I guess it was on BSC first, but whatever. It's mostly an Arbitrum native app. Like, that's one of the biggest ones there. But in general, the biggest apps on these chains are often just Uniswap and Aave, and they don't actually have a lot of homegrown type of things. Do you have any kind of, just personal theories around why that might be? Is it just kind of a similar thesis to you guys, which is people just trust the blue chips more than they're going to trust new stuff, even if there's all kinds of crazy incentives and whatnot being thrown at them?
It's probably that. Yeah, I think that people are sticking to battle-tested like projects. Another thing that comes up to my mind is that, in most cases, those new protocols popping up on different L2 networks are actually the forks of those blue chip lending protocols. So, from my perspective, I would also probably stick to, battle-tested infrastructure than, using a fork, as we have seen the forks can, end up with some governance attacks or, some small. What I want to say basically is that my point being that some small change in the code can basically cause like a catastrophic event. So yeah, I think people tend to stick to, battle-tested protocols on other networks as well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. So something that's always kind of surprised me about, and I'd written this blog post a long time ago, like aggregation theory applied to DeFi or something, where I feel like a big part of the thesis was, things like DeFi Saver, or at the time, Zapper or whatever else, like it would make sense that most users interact with DeFi through these applications that show all of these different protocols and have different analytics. And it's like one place to kind of manage your assets today. And I feel like that hasn't really played out, and that most people still go to the applications directly. I'm curious if you agree with this and why you think that might be the case.
I completely agree with that statement, to be honest. And I think it goes with no surprise, since all of those underlying protocols and projects have like community of their own. So I think it's, you can assume that most of the users will go to the official UIs of those projects. On the other hand, those projects probably lack of like features and tools the users can find on some other applications, DeFi Saver being one of them. So I would say that, it just makes sense to, again, stick to the, official UI. Don't have to go to some other website. That's why actually we are pursuing the idea of trying to provide our tools on the official UIs of other protocols. Like imagine you have like automation on Aave official UI or something like that. That says powered by DeFi Saver. That I think in that way the users would get like the best of the both worlds, like not needing to change the website they're used to use, and on the other hand have the features that may ease the loan management for them and make it more convenient. When the stats are concerned, what I can say is that from the integrator side, I think that we as of now have like, let's say around 20% of all like liquidity users. That's again a specific case because liquidity went with the approach of like having no official UI, but rather incentivizing the front-end operators. But let's say for Curve USD, I think the number is around the same. Again, an argument for that can be that we were there from day one. Like when the protocol launched, we I think were from the beginning providing some advanced tools which users recognized and later stick to our platform. So yeah, we I think are satisfied with the market share we have from most of the underlying protocols. It's harder to track for let's say Compound and Aave and Maker because we are not the only ones using the smart wallet architecture to manage those loans in the protocols. So yeah, I think the combination of advanced feature and official UI can be a win-win for the user, while of course having access to multiple front ends, because I think it's crucial for the DeFi users that are not developers themselves, to have an access to their loan if some front end goes down. If, for example, they do not know how to spin up quickly their own front end or, let's say, interact with the smart contracts directly.
So that's a really interesting approach you're going after of trying to get some of the applications to integrate your flow into their front end. From the application perspective, as far as I know, no lending applications charge any kind of fees on their front end today. What would be the argument, or maybe they do, what would be the argument against that for like an Aave or a Compound? Why would they be hesitant to include some of this? Or I guess why don't, or maybe they do and I just haven't seen it, but why don't they promote things like DeFi Saver more? Like it seems like an obvious no-brainer that they should want more of their flow to be able to do these complex transactions through that.
I mean, we actually do some co-marketing stuff with basically every protocol we work with. I mean, we integrate. And when it comes to fees, I think each protocol has like its own fee model.
But they're not front-end fees, I guess, like the Uniswap Labs UI has, for example.
Yeah. The Uniswap, I think, was actually the first one that did that. But I think it's because, they decided first to go with the front-end fees prior to, switching, turning on the fee switch. As, for example, Aave, it already has like a revenue stream from borrowers by taking that like reserve part of what borrowers are paying to suppliers. So yeah, I think they do not, need to have some front-end fees. And on the other hand, if they try to offer, let's say, feature powered by DeFi Saver, I think it'll be just up for the user to decide if they want to use it or not. Like we do not, from their perspective, they would not, it's not going to be like something you must do. It's just a feature trying to help borrowers.
Okay. All right. Understand. So, all right, maybe I'll ask that question kind of the other way as well, because it is probably the thing I'm most curious about, which is what could or would it take? Oh, actually, okay, let me take a step back, actually. So if I think about your users today, I would probably define them as power users of DeFi. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but these are people that are seeking out leverage. They're creating CDPs on Maker, which is already kind of a complex thing. So I think you guys are great within that niche. My question, I guess, is, if we agree with the premise from the last question that most of the flow for a lot of these applications still goes through the native UI, are there approaches to kind of maybe more mainstream things like DeFi Saver and think about trying to attract more of a general audience, whether that's through really simple minimized UIs, maybe like what you do with ETH Saver, or more Web 2 marketing type of approach as a mobile app? I don't know. I'm kind of rambling a bit, but hopefully you got the question.
Yeah. Again, very good question. Our approach from the start was like to leave the control to the user like as much as possible, but on the other hand, try to provide. That's on top of like being completely non-custodial, of course. I think that's like out of question for us. So trying to leave the control to the user as much as possible while providing tools to make in this case, loan management as convenient as it gets. So basically, it has definitely come and went through our heads, to provide like this simpler version of DeFi Saver. But what we, it's definitely still in consideration. But on the other hand, users are keep asking for new features on the DeFi Saver app and are completely okay with the set of tools we are providing to when it comes to loan management in DeFi. So it's definitely a thing worth considering. Let's say, do we want to like a simpler version of DeFi Saver when you just select the collateral asset, select the debt asset, and we behind the scenes find the best protocol for you? But I think it's not. It depends on what you're aggregating, and I think that aggregation of DeFi lending protocols is way more complex than, for example, aggregating decentralized exchanges, where you just need to find better exchange rate. Here, you need to see what is the liquidation mechanism behind it. What are the collateral assets? If the protocol is immutable or not. And this is something you are actually making like opinionated product, while we try to leave that decision up to the user. Because, if you want to use something immutable, we can just offer something that is not immutable for you. So, that's why we sort of stick to, providing like a list of protocols and tools to use each one of those as you wish, and those that you choose. And you can we even have a loan shifter tool that can provides an option to like switch from one protocol to another in one click, even if you, let's say, make a mistake or want just to switch to another protocol if you find a better borrow rate or something. So I think that answers the question.
Yeah, the point around being kind of opinionated versus non-opinionated maybe is kind of an aspect here where I think having the non-opinionated product means that the user has to have strong opinions, which kind of implies some level of sophistication, again, which is what you guys do great. On the flip side, if you were a very opinionated product where you said, hey, there's only 3 options of things you can invest in, it's a one-click kind of thing, maybe that's more of the consumer type of experience, but then also the user is relying a lot more on you guys and your kind of decision-making rather than, you're taking some autonomy away from them, I guess is the way to think about
it. Yeah, completely agree.
Interesting. So something else I'd like to cover is, like we've kind of talked about, I think you guys have done a great job of charging fees in all the right places throughout the product. I think there are other kind of portfolio management, tracking, et cetera, interface type of tools that have maybe struggled a bit more to monetize. And perhaps for that reason, or perhaps for other reasons, some people that are kind of broadly defined as your competitors are going down an approach of maybe introducing tokens or kind of starting with an approach of having governance tokens. You guys have so far chosen not to go down this route. Could you maybe share the kind of pros and cons of if you guys were to protocolize yourself more and think about going more down that route versus where you are today? And I'm curious if you've thought about that in the past.
Yeah, that was like the most common question we were getting, like when token. So the approach, the rationale behind our approach is basically our approach of not having a token is basically that we believe that as a product that started as early as we started, you need to prove to yourself that you are actually providing some value to your users, and that by that you are building the user base without any, let's say, external incentive. And I think we these 5 years have managed to kind of to prove that to ourselves as people that come to DeFi Saver. They know why they are returning back to the platform and which features are they liking the most. So I think the value is there, and I think that our main goal and focus is to try to increase that value the users can find when they come to our app. Our approach is basically completely the opposite of the approach most of the majority of projects nowadays are taking, and that is trying to attract users from day one by launching a token. Even before that, now with the whole points programs we are seeing throughout the industry. Yeah, so our approach is completely opposite in the sense that we first, want to establish like the user base, and thus proving to ourselves that people are coming here. We have a a natural traction, should I say, and not because any other reason. I think that could explain the approach we took so far.
So I guess what I'm kind of hearing in that answer, which I would agree with, is that, first you have to prove out that the product makes sense, and that if you were to ever launch a token, it's justified, and it's not just some, of course, throwing shit at the wall. Yeah, exactly.
And then you can, it will be probably a lot easier to find built-in utility in the token if you already have, a reason, a value, a reason users are coming and the value you are providing to them.
Correct. And you guys already are at a point where you have a lot of users now. I guess it also sounds like you're not completely ruling out the idea. And, I have no horse in the race. I'm just curious. But, if you were to think about like where you could decentralize some parts of your stack or something like that, where it makes sense, like have you guys done that thought exercise of?
To be honest, so far, no. I mean, as we had no plans for a token, but yeah, it could be a interesting thought experiment for sure.
Yes. Okay. Got it. And I guess, just kind of coming back again. So the other, I don't know, it's different than you guys, but broadly in the same bucket is kind of like Infinex. It's kind of coming to market recently. Much more of a mainstream approach, I'd say, just with passkeys and things like that. Have you guys looked into things like passkeys and maybe ever integrating something like that for a less pro version of the product, or doesn't make sense?
I mean, from the UX perspective, I'm, to be honest, not looked into it in details. From UX perspective, to me personally, it does make sense, but like as a team, we haven't really discussed about it. I think the UX in general is like a very important topic when it comes to the whole industry, and we are taking it very seriously. Smart wallets are a step forward to it, and I think that the account abstraction is with the newest Ethereum reform proposal is going through, toward that direction. Basically do not have any smart comment on that. Except that people working on improving UX and releasing projects that are improving the whole user experience are needed in this industry. 100% agree with that.
Totally. So on that note, what can we kind of expect of DeFi Saver in the coming years, or I guess the rest of this year? What's on the roadmap? How do you guys see yourself staying competitive, trying to grow users? Is it cross-chain, more product, more protocols?
Well, basically all you've said. We'll try to basically balance have the app still be maintainable. We not definitely want to have 50 protocols on our applications, but on the other hand, we want to integrate protocols that users are, reaching out and saying, "Hey, I want to use this." Yeah, so protocols, more networks, more features. We on a daily basis have users suggesting new things. One, for example, good thing that we do not have now and we plan to add is one-click shifting from a long position to a short position in a completely decentralized way, which is very cool. That actually also came from a user. Our roadmap is somewhat, controlled by the user feedback. I've emphasized that 5 times already here. It's true. Apart from that, I think, just making the product more sustainable from the development side. And we definitely want to increase the options, the automation options we have on our applications, as we believe it's our like flagship feature, and try to work on explaining why automating your loans like can help you in so many ways, especially now when combined with protocols that are also implementing like mechanisms that can ease the liquidation process, like the soft liquidations we mentioned like a couple of times already. I think that will basically be it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great to hear. So I guess as we're coming up on time and wrapping up, I know you track a lot of things across DeFi, maybe even outside of what you're working on or focused on with DeFi Saver, or it could be within the lending space. What is most catching your attention today? What are you most interested in? What do you think are the best narratives or real products, or what's exciting you?
To be honest, mine, like recent research was Aave v4 as they introduced it. Yeah. Another one was Liquidity version 2 as they published the white paper. So yeah, it's mainly still in the lending space. So yeah, there are some quite good new primitives that are yet to launch. For example, Aave is planning like their own network, like the whole unified liquidity layer. So yeah, it's definitely something we as a team of integrators need to plan ahead and to see what is the value proposition we can offer to those new protocols, new iteration of protocols. Apart from that, I would say Athena probably, as it's a very interesting yield strategy that has not been yet captured until the Athena project came up. I think that would probably be it.
Nice. Yeah. Well, what are in your mind kind of the defining features of Aave v4? I've kind of skimmed it and I need to go back and do a more thorough read through myself.
Well, they sort of implemented like the best of the most recent innovations. Like they introduced soft liquidations for their Go stablecoin. Like they introduced a redemption mechanism that can be turned on automatically. That is very similar to the redemption mechanism of LUSD from Liquidity V1. They introduced the mentioned unified liquidity layer. I mean, a lot of new stuff. They also introduced like smart accounts, which enable users to have like multiple Aave positions with a single EOA, externally owned account, which is actually something that, for example, you can do actually now in Aave v3 via DeFi Saver, as we have like safe smart accounts. And yeah, I mean, a lot more things. I will not go through any. Each one of those, but yeah, some really really cool stuff. I think the estimate is like next year for V4.
Awesome. Well, excellent. Thank you so much for taking all the time to speak today. Where can people learn more about you? Follow along DeFi Saver as well.
DeFi Nicola on Twitter. You can follow, DeFi Saver also on Twitter, or just go straight to the website. It's defisaver.com, or just, jump into our Discord for interesting DeFi discussions.
Awesome. Well, we will be sure to include all those links in the show notes. And once again, thanks for joining.
Cool. Thanks for having me.